16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, brought to you by Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute. Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute ACCTI offers counseling, customized wellness programs, training and supervision of counselors and other caregivers. ACCTI advocates for psychosocial support as essential. Visit our website and social media handles for registration of our next intakes and employee wellness programs. For more details, call us on 0722-626590 or visit www.amanicenter.org.
Good evening and happy 59th Jamhuri Day to you from wherever it is you're watching, and thank you for watching KTN News. My name is Dennis Aseto and welcome to this coverage that focuses on the just concluded 16 days of activism, with this year's theme being ending violence against women and girls. We'll be having that conversation a bit later, but now let's talk about the youth, FGM and outdated traditions, where more than 200 young people from Kenya and Uganda have announced that they are on the forefront in the fight against FGM, early marriage and early pregnancy. Both male and females between 12 years and above from different schools were trained on several issues. Among the issues to be addressed include ending FGM, HIV infection, early marriage, children's rights, responsibility, and the rights of the girl child.
Makofi ya Ngoria Luka. Alafu ya mwisho sasa tuko na
We had a very good session. As a Salale, the challenges that we are facing, the FGM, mostly in those places that not all people are they're educated, and also there's early marriages and drug abuses.
Kama World Vision imekuwa kama desire. It has been our desire or our prayer to begin our program in Alale because of issues of cross-border FGM and child marriage, where perpetrators have been crossing over to Uganda to their cousins, good cousins in Uganda. And so today we are just celebrating one of the milestones that we are making as an organization. For a long time, issues of FGM has revolved around women and girls. But then we realized that we were doing so little in terms of the impact that we were making. So we decided we are also going to involve boys in this process, so that they can understand really what the issue of FGM is. Something that I've realized in this community is that boys do not know exactly what girls go through.
Now, the world just concluded observing the 16 days of activism. On KTN News, we continue with this coverage because there is still more to be done. Under the theme End Violence Against Women and Girls, GBV cases continue to be recorded across the country and beyond. In the face of the increase in cases, we note that parents are stakeholders in this continuous fight. That's to find solutions to these issues, there must be an ongoing conversation. In studio with me is Damaris Kamau, Training and Clinical Services Manager and a Counseling Psychologist, Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute. Welcome to the show, Damaris. And as we talk about cases to do with GBV, we realize that parents are a big stakeholders when it comes to this conversation. Just explain to us parenting and how it is tied to fighting gender-based violence.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. What is parenting? You know, parenting is a process of rearing children, bringing up children. It's a process that involves spending time with children, instilling values, instilling commitment, instilling discipline. It takes time. It also calls for the parent to be retrained. I can be a parent of a 1-year-old, then I have another child, I need to be retrained. I need to learn more skills. So parenting is a process. Just because I have a connection, a biological connection with my child is not enough. I need to invest, I need to be available, I need to be present, I need also to listen to them, I need to take feedback from my children, I need to also take feedback from people who can mentor me, I need to be available. And yes, parenting comes in very handy, because we're saying when the children are parented correctly, then we're investing, that is their foundation. We're also giving them wings to fly. So if their foundation is right, then their wings for success and for future is going to be successful.
Now, when we talk about parenting, the way you've described it, there has to be a certain form, there has to be a certain style. So take us through these styles when it comes to parenting, so that for some of us who want to be parents, we know that this is the best style to follow.
Okay, thank you. First, we want to acknowledge and appreciate that our community is largely patriarchal, meaning it's male-dominated. The males seem to have a way, a dominance, and there are certain gender norms, gender roles, gender responsibilities. If I have a child, if there's a child who is a boy and a girl, then their gender roles, that what we expect from both the children is very different. And that's what most of us know, what we learned from our parents, what our parents also learned from others. So the difference is that now we are saying, now this is a different generation. Parenting has emerged. Parenting is slightly different. And there are some harmful traditional practices that we need to be aware of. Maybe we didn't talk about them, maybe we were not careful about. In counseling, we like to talk about 4 parenting styles. The first one, we talk about an authoritarian parent. An authoritarian parent is strict. It's his way or the highway. You know, you need to follow through. So they have no room to listen. They're not going to listen to what the children are saying, but the children need to comply 100%. So what happens to this particular child who was not listened to? The parent was the driver of their lives. So fast forward in life, then they do not know what to do. They do not know what to say, because somebody made rules, somebody gave them direction, somebody did not want them to, they didn't question. So they didn't come out themselves, they didn't evolve as individuals. Then the other type of parenting is what we're calling the authoritative. So it was authoritarian, then it is authoritative. Now the authoritative parent is firm, is aware and places demands on children, but also is very responsive to their needs. So there's an environment that this parent, authoritative parent, will work with, that we explain the rules. We then explain the consequences. So if you go against these rules, then there are consequences. So these children coming from authoritative parents tend to be more balanced, because they listened, they even questioned, they clarified, expectations were clearly laid down for them. So very different from the authoritarian parent. So the authoritarian parent said, you need to follow. So they were very rigid. This authoritative parent says, please remember, I am still the parent, there are rules, however, I can listen, we can talk about them. Then there's the other parent, number 3, we're saying the permissive parent. The permissive parent is very lenient. We like to look at parents who are very lenient, calling their children very beautiful names. And they keep on saying, referring to their children as, they are just children. Kababa, Kamama, beautiful Kadadi. These children, probably because this parent went through an authoritarian parent. So they suffered quite a bit. So they do not wish to have the children suffering the same way. So when so they keep on making statements, they are just children. They're 13 years old, they're growing into adolescence, they keep on saying and referring to them, they're children, listen to them. So this permissive parent listens to the needs of the child, but doesn't allow the child to grow. Doesn't allow the child. So fast forward, what happens to this particular child? When this child is faced with situations, when this child needs to obey, when this child needs to be under authority, they question. Because then they were not used to questioning. For them, they listen. They wanted their parents to listen. They wanted that person who is closest to them to listen to them. Then we have this other parent who is saying, totally uninvolved. Uninvolved, probably, they're not there, so the children just raise themselves. So somebody even said, these children coming from uninvolved parents, totally neglected. The children are expected to grow on their own. So the children are just left on their own, wild. In fact, somebody made an example and said, it's like in the bush, in the wild, they just grow. Imagine a child with no parental guidance, no mentoring, no supervision. In fact, in a few years' time, when they're adults, maybe when they're 23 and out of home, what type of child will this person be? What type of young adult will this person be? Because they do not know how to. Nobody took their time to guide them. Remember, we said parenting is about mentoring. It's about teaching. It's about guiding. But this child did not have any guidance at home. They grew up, can we say, just by the grace of God, just grew.
And what is the link between parenting styles and GBV? And still on that, which is the best parenting style?
Okay. Remember we said parenting is a core. It is really core, because then it is a core issue here. Because if the child is not parented well, then their foundation is shaky. Their success much later is also questionable. You know, today we were celebrating 59 years of independence. So you can imagine this child who is now a child, in 23 years' time, they are out of home, then they only know what they learned from home. So you've asked, you know, so what parenting style, you know, how does parenting affect even in issues of GBV? Remember, we're saying the authoritarian parent is very firm, too rigid. So when this person gets into intimate relationships, the expectation is that as they speak, the other person should follow. They should be in tow. They should, you know, they need to be listened to. If they get into a relationship maybe with a partner who had parents who were totally unavailable, then this person has a form of learned helplessness. They do not know, you know. Remember, this is both of these children, now adults, are all having wounds. So they are traumatized. So even as adults, they hurt each other emotionally. They continue to hurt each other psychologically in the way they relate with each other. And then remember, we always say, you know, violence begets violence. I was parented probably knowing that these are the roles of women. These are the roles of girls. So I am expected to conform. But then we are saying children are different. They can be creative. Young women can be engineers. Young women can be, you know, they can just be, you know, they have great potential the same way the men have potential. So what happens to this parent who says to their child, I need you to be this particular person? Or you have no say. You want to be creative and your parents keep on saying you cannot be. Fast forward in life, then that's the only thing you know. You don't question, you are not free, you are not creative. And in return, because you're hurting, you're frustrated, even the people around you will be hurting. Even the people around you will be harmed. So nobody is safe around you, because then you're healing your wounds, but at the same time, you're hurting others in the process.
So what would you consider to be some of the common parenting pitfalls that then tend to lead to GBV? And if we realize that this is the problem, what is your message, first of all, to parents when it comes to parenting their children? And children, what is there to also learn?
Okay, for parents, you know, it's about intentional parenting. It's about learning new ways, learning different ways, accepting to be mentored, accepting to be taught new ways, new skills. For parents, one of the pitfalls is comparing children, not listening to children, like that authoritarian parent, not listening to children. So what happens to their creativity? What happens even in future as they relate with others? They become controlling. They are not able to sort out their issues. Maybe when they're sorting out even issues on conflict, they are not equipped. Because the only way they know it, the only thing they know how to do is probably shout, is say it. This child who has been brought through the permissive parent, you know, I cannot do it, and the parent would be saying to that child at that time when they were younger, no, I'll do it for you. So what happens later? Nobody is there to do it for them. So if no one is there to do it for them, they're frustrated. And they continue to frustrate even the people who are around them, because nobody listened. But there is hope. Even for children, there is hope, because then we are saying we continue to gain skills. Parents can listen. Yes, this was the way we were parented. Nobody has shown us the ways, but we can learn. We can be empowered. We can go back to school. We can take classes, and it doesn't mean that we take up a program and say this is enough. Parenting is evolving. parenting is moving on. We are saying there are harmful practices because of a patriarchal upbringing, the socialization, what we learned in our society, what we normalize as being, it is okay, but it is not okay. Once we realize that these things are not okay, then can we do something about it? What about those children? What about parents who are hurting? Is there hope for them? Yes, there is hope. There is hope. There is hope for retraining. There is hope for somebody to listen to them. There is hope for them to learn those bad practices and relearn new practices about themselves.
And finally, I will just take you through the cultural and societal expectations, because we come from an African society where some cultures don't believe that men should be in the kitchen. Yet, around the world, we have some of the best chefs out there who happen to be men. So how do we then deal with the societal expectations and tell people that it is okay for you to do that which you were taught that you should not do? And for women, you can embrace these technical fields that you are told are only meant for men, because then I tend to think rather that creates conflict, because a man would tell you, why are you doing that? That's meant for men. Why are you going to the kitchen? You're not a woman. How do we solve that from an aspect of societal values that we instill to our children growing up?
Okay. Yes, we accept that our society is largely patriarchal, but some of what you've mentioned are harmful, because we bring up children, and these are gender roles, these are gender responsibilities, obligations, but children can be allowed to be creative. There are potentials within children. So can we listen more to these children? Can we allow them to question? Can we explain rules? Can we be available for them? Can you and I be parents who are also willing to listen, even to feedback? Yes, some of our cultural practices are outdated, but when they are outdated, what are we saying to the community? Can we join hands together and look at what is outdated and what can be said to replace what has been outdated? What are some useful practices, for example? We notice that sometimes when you want to do away with some harmful ways of thinking, then you have to involve the community. So it's not just women, it's not just the counselor, it's not just the men, but everybody in society. So are we able to come together and collectively say, we want to do things differently. We want to look at girls at an equal platform with the men. We want to look at girls and women and even boys to a certain extent, that these are people who have potential. They can, like the example you have given, they can just be what they want to be, so long as we are giving them the guidance, we're giving them the protection, we are protecting them, we are mentoring them over a period of time.
And finally, Dr. As we talk about this, what would be your message to parents out there in a minute?
Okay. Parenting is new. Every day.
It's updated.
It keeps on emerging. The way you parent a firstborn is different from the way you parent a secondborn. So just be willing to accept that I can learn different skills. I can relearn, I can enhance my skills, I can take feedback, and I can implement feedback. I can allow myself to be vulnerable also as a parent, so that I can learn for the sake of the children, and also for the sake of the foundation of these children who will be future adults.
Well put. In studio with me is Damaris Kamau, Training and Clinical Services Manager and a Counseling Psychologist, Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute, saying that we need to take responsibility as parents to raise individuals who know the good, the bad, but those individuals who have the room to be who they want to be. I remember Lupita once said that everyone who has a dream has a lot.
Valid.
Their dreams are valid, yeah?
Dreams are valid.
Yes, everyone's dream is valid. My name is Danny Saseto. Many thanks for watching, and we continue with this coverage in 16 Days of Activism, making sure that we end gender-based violence against women and girls. Enjoy the rest of the viewing. Jesse Rogers will be here in a few. Good evening.
"16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence" brought to you